Hello, everyone, and welcome to our lesson today on question words in English. This is a very important topic and one that comes up in nearly every conversation. Whether you're in a business environment or whether you are just conversing with an English person, questions are always important. They help us get to the bottom of a specific topic or find out more about something else. So today we're going to recap as many question words as we can, meanwhile asking you some questions and trying to help you learn and recap these important question words. So hello to everyone in the chat. Thank you for your messages. If you would like to ask any questions during the lesson, please do. I'm also here to help with any pronunciation points you have, any other troubles that you're having in English. So it's nice to have some students here today, and hello to those of you who have just joined. A very brief introduction about our company. We are Cercle and we're based in Paris. And the confinement is over now, but we still want to give these free lessons to try and help out as many of you as possible. So if you haven't already done so, please do subscribe to our channel. If you look below the video here, you should see the bell, and this will alert you to our videos every day at 3 p.m. So to start the topic on question words today, I wanted to ask you some questions. So, the top 1% of the richest people on earth have double the wealth, double the money of 7 million people. So, what would you do with that money if you could use it to help other people? How would you use that money to help other people? So the question word here is how. And for those of you who are advanced students in English, I understand that these question words might be easy for you, but I think it's important for those beginners to really understand how to use them and what they mean. They're really important, as I mentioned, in business environments and also in personal environments. So, I said the question I asked was, what could you spend with this money from the top 1% of the world's richest people? How could you help other people with that money? Okay, so the question word here is how. We will discuss how we use this word later on, and we will talk about different examples. So today, if you understand the question words, you can test your English by answering in full sentences. It's often common that people are unsure of how to respond to certain questions. So that will be my job today to help that as well. So I can see that everyone is a bit shy. So I will help answer the question for you. I've seen that you would like me to write the question in the chat, which of course I can do. How can you help the world using the money from the world's richest 1%? How can you help the world? If you had loads of money, how could you help other people? I wrote that question down very quickly, so I apologize if it's not very clear, but let's have a look at some of the answers. Delphine has written that she would help build homes. Fantastic. There are so many people who are unable to have conditions to live in, and the world will be a much better place if everyone had somewhere to live. Fantastic, Delphine. Anya has written down here that she would build new schools. That's a fantastic response. Building new schools can help educate people, And by educating people, we can hopefully advance in our medical centers, we can advance our technology so we can all live better lives. So we're talking about question words, and I use the question word how. So how is a word we use to really find the reason, or how have I written it down here? The manner how something is done. So for example, if someone uses a question with how, they want to know the manner. They want to know the actions which you did or the steps that you took to answer the question. Okay, so fantastic. Hopefully it becomes a little clearer. And for those of you who understand the question clearly, hopefully you got to practice your English in your answer. So let's move on to our first question word. And I will say it again quickly. I know a lot of people are confident with the question words, but I think it's such an important topic. If you understand the word, you can give a really long answer and we can talk about the English that you've used. Okay, my first question word is who. We use who if we want to find out about a specific person. Now, while I discuss who, if you could write me a sentence with who in it, you can write a sentence or a question. Just try to use who in a constructive manner where you're talking about someone or a person. So, for example, if I wanted to know the location or I wanted to know a person who was in my sight, who I could see, I could say, who is that? So that question there, who is that, is a question that I'm using to determine this person here. I'm talking about an individual. Perhaps in business, you can talk about who you want to invest in. You can also talk about different companies as well. Who is going to earn the most money this year? Is it Apple or Samsung or another company? So we use it to talk about specific bodies. Okay, so let's have a look at some of the sentences below. Delphine has written, I want to know who built this. Fantastic, Delphine. Since you're talking about a building which has been constructed in the past and you're admiring it, we need to use the past tense of build, which is built. But exactly, Delphine wants to know the person responsible or the company who built that tower. Fantastic, Delphine. Thank you for your example. Aurelia, it's lovely to have you here. Aurelia has written, who do you want to become? So this is a self-reflection question. It's asking about yourself. You are also an individual, and she's talking about perhaps the values that a person or an individual can have. I would like to become someone who helps other people. That's why I enjoy teaching. Ania has written, who are you? Exactly. If you're in a business conference and you don't know someone, you could say, who are you? Who do you work for is another question you can ask. Fantastic. Okay. I notice as I'm teaching the lesson now, it is very simple, and I've said this before. At the end, I have some difficult questions which you can answer in detail. So please do bear with me as I think it's still a really important topic. So the next question word is where. So while I explain where, please do practice the use of this question word. You can either ask me a question or you can use it in a sentence and I will help you structure your answer or your question, as it's quite common that some people make mistakes. We use the question word where when we are talking about a specific place, okay, a location, an area, a country, a business. So, for example, Ania has written here, where do you live? So Anya is referring to a location where your house is. If you're in a business society or you're in a business conference, you may want to ask someone where they come from. That's just another way of asking where do you live, but more formal perhaps. Where do you come from? An excellent example, Anya. Nariman has also asked that question. Delphine has written, I don't know where I can travel. Fantastic. So we also used it for countries and we talk about locations that we want to go to. I could ask a question in the past and say, where did you go last year? So I'm referring to a vacation that you did in the previous year. So we're always talking about a place. For an example, we can also use it to describe companies as well. We said, who do you work for? You can ask, where do you work? And that could also mean the department. I work as a teacher. Or you could say, if you're talking about a hierarchy, that's more specific. If there's a hierarchy in your job and someone asks you, where are you working? You can point out on the hierarchy where you are. So Aurelia's also written a fantastic example. Where is democracy? We can also use this for other examples that aren't places or locations. Okay, the next one is why. So we use this question word why to talk about reasons. Why did this thing happen? What is the cause of this? Why did this happen? Why is this a result of this action? So, for example, if you want to know the reason for a particular event or action, you can ask why. It is acceptable in English to just use why as a question by itself. I could say, or someone could say to me, I went for a run. I could just respond, why? That is a question in itself. In this example, I'm asking why they went for a run. So perhaps they could answer because they needed to release stress, they wanted to do some exercise. There are many different examples that they could give. Okay, so let's have a look at some questions. Aurelia has written, why do you love teaching? So I love teaching because it's a really social job where I'm able to meet some amazing people, such as all of the students in this chat. And it's really nice to help people progress and improve something that they're passionate in. And it's fantastic teaching students like you, Aurelia. So Delphine has written here, why do you want to leave? Exactly. So perhaps in businesses or perhaps even just at home, you can question people's actions. So here, Delphine is asking about the verb to leave. Why has this person made a decision to leave? Fantastic, Delphine. And of course, why did you do it? A question, if you have children, might be used regularly. Why did you do it? Obviously referring to the action that person has done. Okay, the next question word is when. Now, when is very specific as we talk about times. For example, this lesson starts at 3 p.m. every day. Before we started, I had students who were asking me, when does the lesson start? When anyone asks you a question with when, they want to know a time as an answer. You can be specific, you can be more general. For example, my friend could ask me, when are you going on holiday? I could say I'm going on holiday in summer. So we can talk about general times, for example, in summer, or we can be really specific and talk about times when lessons begin, or when the train or when the bus leaves or arrives. And if I have a look at some suggestions, thank you very much for contributing still. It's really good that you practice using the vocabulary. Sometimes it is difficult to form an answer or a question, but these are fantastic so far. So Delphine has written, when does he want to go back? Fantastic. Maybe school or work. When? It's obviously responding to a day. So Miranda has written, when can we get out completely? Obviously referring to the confinement. Fantastic. When will you come back? Excellent. When could we travel? Obviously all relating to times. Another popular question word in English is which. Now, if we are presented with a choice, the question might begin with which. Let's say, for example, that I am at the boulangerie and I want to buy a sandwich. There are two sandwiches. I have a saucisson and a salmon sandwich. The lady behind the counter might ask me in French, but we're assuming that she speaks English. She could ask, which one do you want? Okay, and the question is, you have a choice of two. What is your preferred choice? So if we look at the examples from other students, we will see that there is a choice. Ania has written here, which wine do you prefer? Exactly, so this is a very common question in restaurants. Aurelia has written, which one will you choose? Exactly, so here we have the verb choice. We have choose or chose. Alain has written, which color do you prefer? Fantastic, which is your favorite? So here we're all presented with choices. The next word I'd like to talk about is whose. Okay, we primarily use whose if we're talking about a possession, okay, a noun, an object. I always talk about my pen. If I leave this in my office, someone can find it and ask, whose pen is this? Okay, then I could respond, it is my pen. Let's say I find another object. In the office, there's a banana. I could ask, whose banana is this? So I'm asking for a possession. Who does this belong to? Whose dog is this? It's an excellent example, Anya. So hopefully you get the idea. If there are any questions, please don't hesitate to ask. I'm happy to help, but I am under the impression that everyone understands so far. So I want to start talking about some more question words that can be used in different ways now. So one of our most popular question words is what. We use what if we're talking about an object. What is this? We could talk about an action. What are you doing? I am teaching. And we can talk about ideas that people have. What idea do you have? What should we do for this new project? What did you decide on the color? So we use what for many different circumstances. Let's have a look at some examples of different questions using what. So Miranda has written, what happened? Exactly. So you're referring to an event which has occurred. Perhaps it could be positive or negative. Maybe there are loads of people in a group and you don't know why. You could ask, what happened? Why is everyone standing here? It's a really good example, Miranda. What do you think about this situation exactly? So then we're talking about a situation more general. For example, the confinement. We use this commonly when we meet new people. What is your job? What do you do? What is your purpose for this meeting? What would you like to do for the next meeting? It's very common and we can use it very regularly in personal circumstances and also in business circumstances. What do you want at the end? What are you doing? What kind of governments do we have? Exactly, so excellent examples. I did mention before that we can use what in different circumstances to ask different questions. We can also start our question with what kind. If we ask what kind, we're talking more about a description perhaps of an object. For example, my pen. If someone asked me, what kind of pen is this? It's different to asking, what is this? Okay, so what is this? It's a pen. What kind of pen is it? They want a description. And I could say, it's a white pen with a green lid. It has black ink. It's new. It's from this company. Okay, so I've described the object. It's a more specific question. So, for example, in a meeting, if someone asks you, what kind of project would you like to start? They want the descriptions and details of your project. It would not suffice if you said, I want a pen project. You need to be more specific. You need to give more details. So the examples we have written in the chat are, what kind of colors do you like? Exactly. You can explain why you like that color perhaps, and what has that color. Ania has written here, what kind of job would you like to have? Exactly, a really good example. A job is very specific. Maybe there's a specific part of a job that you prefer over others. What kind of tomatoes did you buy? Exactly, there are many different kinds. The person might want a description as to which ones you did get. And the last example I can tell you with what is what time. So this is similar to when, as in the response, you need to respond with a time. What time does the train leave? When does the train leave? It's very similar. So if you see this, don't be rattled. It's very similar to when. It's just another way of asking the question. And now one of the last question words we haven't talked about before I ask you some more open questions is how. And we saw this question at the beginning of the lesson. And we talk about how, if we talk about the manner, I would just like to ask if everyone understands what I mean when I talk about the manner of how something is done, the actions of how something has been carried out, what has been the implications of this product, how, the manner of something. Perhaps we can talk about some examples. How did you get to work? What is the manner of you arriving at work? I got to work by walking. How did you jump so high? How were you able to do this action? Okay, so we want to know the manner. It's difficult to describe, but hopefully by looking at some of the questions, you start to get an idea of how to really use this question word. How do you experience confinement? Perhaps we could word that differently and say, how are you finding the confinement? So that question is asking, are you comfortable? Are you not so comfortable in confinement? Fantastic. We also use how if we're talking about a price or a quantity. So, sorry, not a price, just a quantity of a countable noun. So, for example, let's say students. You are all students. If I asked how many students are on the lesson today, I could count each student. Student is a countable noun. Therefore, it is correct for me to word that question, how many students are there? On the contrary, if we have an uncountable noun, we say how much. How much sugar can I put in my tea? How much rubbish is there outside? We often use how much to ask for the price of objects. For example, if I go back to the bakery in Paris, where they're asking me which sandwich do you want, I could ask how much is the sandwich for saucisson? How much is the sandwich? And they would tell me the price of that sandwich. So fantastic. Aurelia's chosen languages, which is obviously a countable noun. How many languages do you speak? Fantastic. Other examples of how are how long for a duration. How long is the film? How often for how much you do something. How often do you go for a run? How far for a distance. How far is the Eiffel Tower from my office? Okay, so I'm looking for a distance. Is it 1 kilometer, 2 kilometers? And I think these are all the important question words. If anyone has not understood these, please do ask or write a comment in the chat. But now I'd like to test your understanding of question words with some more difficult questions. And again, it's interesting for me because I get to learn more about you all. So my first question is, who inspires you? Who inspires you? So we talk about inspiring if someone gives you inspiration, they give you positive energy, they make you feel better, they make you want to be a better person. So we often talk about inspiration as being found in nature if you're an artist perhaps, or if you are feeling sad or you're feeling down, perhaps you feel unwell, perhaps a friend or a family member can inspire you to do something new. So, who inspires you? Can you pick a family member or a friend? Or can you pick perhaps a celebrity or someone famous who inspires you? Fantastic. So, Miranda has written here, I am inspired by nature. And me too. I do love nature. I find it's very inspirational. Ania has written, my teacher of theatre. Fantastic. So, why does she inspire you? Is she very positive? Does she show you how to do different things? Okay, so Delphine has written, some architects inspire you. So, I'm guessing you're an architect, Delphine, and I think architect is a form of art. You're designing a building, you're designing something new. As a designer, I think you're an artist, and it's very common for artists to take inspiration from others. For example, I could find inspiration through photography by looking at other photographs. A really good example. And Aurelia has written, Victor Hugo inspires me, and Nelson Mandela. Fantastic. My next question is, which of your accomplishments are you most proud of? So here I'm using the question word which. Everyone here has many accomplishments, many things to be happy and proud of, but which one is top of that list? What yourself are you most happy about? I think my proudest accomplishment is having a really nice, um, I guess, experiencing Paris, having the opportunity to live in a fantastic city and to have a job that I'm very proud of, and to have students like you who always do try in lessons and always want to learn. I think all of you inspire me too to become a better teacher. So thank you for that. But what accomplishments are you most proud of? So what makes you happy about yourself? Could be an action, could be something you've done. So fantastic. Aurelia's written her relationship with her daughter. They have a lovely family and it's really nice. I'm sure that's a fantastic accomplishment. Miranda has written here, having received a lot of love. I think it's really important to share good emotions and positive energy, something that you have obviously done, Miranda. So I'm very proud of that. I'm very happy for you. Delphine has written, I'm proud of my determination. You always come to the classes, Delphine, and you always write and you always try your best. You are very determined, and I'm sure you'll do well. So we're coming towards the end. So I just have one last question. Where would you, where do you want to travel to next? Where do you want to travel to next? So now everything's starting to go back to normal. We're still a long way, but again, it's nice to think positively and have a plan for the future, a positive one. So, where does everyone want to go next when the opportunity arises? So, Anya has written Vietnam, and I was living there last year, Anya, and it's a beautiful country, full of culture, full of an amazing history, and I hope you have the most fantastic time. If you ever want any tips, Anya, on where to go or what to eat or what to try, I'm happy to help out. Delphine wants to go to Boston for 1 month. America is a fantastic country as well, with a lot of opportunities and a lot of different cultures and history. An amazing place. I hope you have a good time, Delphine. So Greece, a beautiful warm climate. Ireland is fantastic as well. Okay, so I hope you all get a chance to go to where you want to travel to. Unfortunately, we've come to the end of the lesson today, but thank you all for joining today. I understand that this lesson was about the basics, but it's always important and it's a really good practice to talk again about the basics. Even listening to English and reading the sentences that have been written on the chat really does help your pronunciation, your writing and reading skills. So even if you find it easy, it's really good practice, these lessons. Thank you for joining today, everyone. I hope you all had a really good weekend and I hope you all have a really good week. I will see you all tomorrow at 3 p.m. Have a nice afternoon. Goodbye.